episode of A Beer and a Take, day 9, and I'm sitting here and I will have the Harpoon Winter Warmer. Okay, so Harpoon, it says on the side of the bottle, as I'll read it, it says, New England's first seasonal craft beer release. This delightfully spiced ale has satisfied many a holiday partier, from the cozy pubs and apartments of Boston to the snowy lodges in Vermont's Green Mountains. Enjoy with friends and loved ones and let the revelry begin. Happy holidays. From the employee owners of Harpoon. So, it says an ale brewed with cinnamon and nutmeg, Harpoon Brewery. Now, while I'm not a big fan of the New England area, being from New York, I will not say that they don't make good beer. They do. They do. This one is 6% ABV. Hopefully this is pretty good. Cheers. Okay, so definitely an ale. You can taste cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg. It's not overwhelming, and if I told you it was in there, or I didn't tell you it was in there rather, you probably wouldn't recognize it. But you do recognize that it does have like a little bit of something in there, but you wouldn't be able to really stick your finger on it. It's tasty. You know, it doesn't leave any bitter taste in your mouth, and it doesn't feel heavy as you're drinking it. So you know, it's definitely something that's definitely you could drink. You could definitely drink this throughout the holidays. And as I drink this beer, let's talk about my take. Throughout this year, whether it be in football or baseball, it doesn't really happen too much in basketball or hockey. Hockey doesn't happen. I don't think it happens anywhere outside of Canada. But let's talk about what it means to play for a team franchise that is relevant. And when I say relevant, I mean you play in a market that's extremely hostile, and or your team is very competitive, and therefore they are noted in the media, versus playing for a franchise or a media market that is, quite frankly, just no one's really interested in, and the difficulty therein. Because I don't think people can really appreciate what it's like for some of these athletes to have to compete in markets where their fans are just jerks, to be truthful. I mean, let's just talk about baseball for a second. You've got Aaron Judge, who this year set the new record in the American League with 62 and won the MVP while playing borderline Gold Glove level defense in center field and right field, while pretty much carrying the Yankees the entire second half of the season. And we get into the postseason, and obviously, and the way I can see it is that, you know, he got tired carrying the team on his back. A lot of people will sit there and say, oh, well, he's just not good enough, or he choked under the pressure. And usually these are people that never played baseball. But they don't take into account that the postseason is extra games. And there's a thing that, you know, you're trained to play a certain amount of games, or you're ready to play a certain amount of games. And he really didn't have that much of a break going into the postseason because of the home run chase. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that's you know, they should have sat him more so he'd be more well rested for the postseason. But to argue that Shohei Ohtani should have won MVP over him, playing in for a team that their games ceased to matter after May, the amount of pressure that goes on somebody like Aaron Judge versus somebody like Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout, who play for a franchise that, quite frankly, if they disappeared tomorrow, I don't think anybody would care. LA fans are LA Dodgers fans, not LA Angels fans. And being successful in stuff that doesn't matter. And I think that's why we end up seeing a lot of these top guys from smaller franchises go to bigger franchises and wilt under the pressure. They are not the star that they once were. We've seen that. If you're a Yankee fan, you see that a lot. I mean, let's just go recently. The last 5-6 years? Sonny Gray was a stud when he played for the A's. He sucks now. Giancarlo Stanton, while he's been good with the Yankees, was an MVP prior to getting here. He was an MVP. Is he an MVP candidate anymore? Can anyone honestly sit there and say, oh yeah, he's totally an MVP candidate still? He's not. He hasn't lived up to the billing. You know, and Frankie Montas, I knew he was going to end up like Sonny Gray Part 2 when we got him. Played for Oakland in games that don't matter, and he's successful there, and that's great. Come to New York, where everybody in New York is watching you. Everybody's sitting there waiting for you to stumble. It's not the same. I don't think that there's anybody on the Angels or even the Padres, who are successful right now, but they still play in a very small market with limited amount of fans, that are going to boo their MVP. The Yankees had a guy that won 2 MVPs in a World Series and set a record for the most home runs hit in a single season, breaking Babe Ruth's record, and we booed him as well. So to try to compare Shohei Ohtani to Aaron Judge, or try to compare Trevor Lawrence or even Justin Fields' situation to like Zach Wilson or Daniel Jones, that's not even remotely fair. So now my rating. This is pretty good. It's pretty good in the sense that you can drink it. It's got a little flavor to it. I like the Christmas theme. It's got mistletoe on the bottle, and Harpoon usually puts out pretty solid beers. I could drink this. I'll give this a 3. This is a 3 out of 4 flights. Crushed. Take it easy.